Well, today is World Refugee Day. It is a day to commemorate the strength, courage and perseverance of millions of refugees across the world. Refugees like those at a transit camp on the outskirts of Abuja are asking for a better livelihood. Sifan Essien reports.
Mungaba Anji is from DR Congo. He fled to Nigeria 10 years ago after he was victimized for his activism in free speech. He has lived in this transit camp for 2 years alongside other refugees.
We were fighting for democracy in Congo after the sad story of a dictatorship that stayed there almost 30 years with Mobutu, and we wanted to get rid of him. And he was thrown away, but the new regime was was a bit stopping the work for democracy. So we were claiming for alternative power, the freedom of expression.
Life has been uneasy, yet he is grateful for the refuge.
I'm so grateful, really, the way things are going.
To commemorate the World Refugee Day, the National Commission for Refugees, in conjunction with UNHCR, visits the camp on the outskirts of Abuja to give out relief items. The delegation is welcomed with a presentation by the children.
Welcome, welcome home. Happy to see you, happy to meet you.
As it is, we have about 2,000 refugees all over the country. Here in Yagodra, we have about 50-something or so. And so far, none has gone back.
We are today gathered here to express and show solidarity with people who, for no reason of their own, no fault of their own, found themselves in displacement.
Unlike Anji and his colleagues, most refugees in Nigeria live outside the camp. They survive on whatever they can get. Sifan Essien, TVC News, Abuja.
This year's World Refugee Day also marks a key moment for the public to show support for families forced to flee. To do this, the United Nations Refugee Agency has launched the With Refugees petition to send a message to governments that they must work together and do their fair share for refugees. For more on this now, let's join, of course, on Skype, Senior Communication Officer with United Nations Human Rights, Vannina Maesstracci. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this time. Well, we just watched a report there where some goodies were delivered to refugees at a certain camp. But my question is, do we always have to wait until it's World Refugee Day before we remember these ones?
Well, at the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, we take care of refugees every day and everywhere around the world. There are 65.6 million people who have been forcibly displaced from their homes in 2016. So World Refugee Day is just really a day to underline their resilience and their dignity, and to make sure that we get a global commitment for their protection from every country around the world.
And are they getting enough support from NGOs, UNHCR included, and governments across the world for them to be able to easily adapt to their new conditions?
Well, I mean, we'd like to see every country around the world stepping up when it comes to helping refugees, of course. A lot more can be done. We work every day to the best of our abilities in difficult conditions sometimes all over the world. But one thing is for sure is that we need to help the communities that are welcoming these refugees, and there's a lot of those communities in Africa, of course. But we also need the resources to be able to assist the refugees and the forcibly displaced in Africa. And I'll give you an example. At UNHCR, we appeal for funds in different situations. and the funds that we requested for Africa are among the least funded. For instance, when it concerns the emergency in South Sudan and the refugees fleeing the violence there, we only have about 19% of the funds requested to help those refugees and the communities that help them.
All right, beyond what you are doing, what else are you doing at the moment to ensure that you get perhaps the right amount of funds that you need to do your work?
Well, as you know, UNHCR relies on voluntary contribution. So we are requesting, of course, donors, both from the public and the private sector, to help us in making sure that we can protect refugees and take care of them when they've moved from the area of danger.
So what are the possible factors really not making international donors want to help fund the needed help African refugees, especially now, need for them to be able to survive? You know, many of them are living in terrible conditions across the camps located on the African continent. Malnutrition, poor hygiene, and of course food rationing, some of the problems African refugees are facing at the moment.
Well, I mean, Africa is one of the continents that has the largest forcible displacement in the world, of course. When it comes to a situation like South Sudan, for instance, which was the fastest growing refugee situation in the world for us in 2016, and one that worries us very much, we're asking countries to really support the region as a whole. Uganda also in particular, which is hosting the majority of refugees coming from South Sudan. And Uganda has done a tremendous job in helping those refugees